The Queen Charlotte Islands are about more than beautiful scenery and abundant wildlife. They have a rich history, a human history. During the last ice age, when the rest of Canada was covered with glaciers, this remote archipelago was lush and green.
There were open islands free of ice in much bigger areas than now, that people were able to use canoes or whatever watercraft they had at that time, which is more than 12,000 years ago, to go down the coast.
It was the Haida who called these islands home and built their villages here. The remains of some, like Skungwai, Skidans, and Tanu, still exist. But in 1774, there was the first of many contacts with Europeans. They brought to the islands a booming fur trade. They also brought smallpox, 3 catastrophic epidemics.
The last one in the 1860s was perhaps the most devastating, and it originated in Victoria when smallpox came up probably from San Francisco on a steamer and started spreading through the First Nations community that was living in Victoria.
When they were forced back to their villages by the government, they took the disease with them. By the end of the century, the Haida population had plummeted from 7,000 to 500. But non-First Nations industry marched on in the Queen Charlottes.
I look at this and I think it's sort of European garbage, but it's no less history than the remains at Tanu or any place else along the coast.
In 1906, a Japanese industrialist beached a sternwheeler here at Ikeda Cove on the east coast of Moresby Island. It served as a bunkhouse for the 100 employees who worked his copper mine.
On a clearer day here, when there's not so much fog, you can see the slag heaps up on the sides of the hills. "20 kilometers south, evidence of another profitable industry, the Rose Harbor Whaling Station.
There were a lot of whales, like in the hundreds of whales per year coming in here. So it's quite and that would have been mainly in the summer season. So we were bringing in, all different species,
Until 1941, ship after ship dragged the enormous carcasses to this place, where steam-powered kettles and pressure cookers rendered oil from their blubber. The slaughter continued until there were no whales left. And so, it seemed to the Haida, was the direction the logging industry was headed. In 1985, they took a stand.
This is Haida land, and there'll be no further logging in this area.
Let us go to work this morning.
You have abused your right to work up to this point in time. Why should we let you continue your poor logging practices?
The Haida people, from little children to grandmothers, blockaded the logging companies who were advancing from the north end of Lyle Island, and they said this is where it stops.
To arrest you for mischief under Section 387 of the Criminal Code.
They erected a longhouse here in Windy Bay at the edge of an ancient virgin rainforest and refused to back down.
Finally, in 1987, the Haida and the governments reached an agreement. The lower third of the Queen Charlotte Islands would be protected forever. It would become known as Guayhanas National Park Reserve.
Today, the longhouse still stands, and so do the trees.
Wow.
They're some of the largest and oldest in the world. A core sample shows this giant Sitka spruce is 1,001 years old.
We got it.
We got it.
How many people?
It took 11 people to hug this tree, something that was especially important to Jack.
Have we touched all the way around?
Jack and his father before him worked many years in the logging industry.
This trip really means a lot to me because I can see what we had destroyed, and I was part of it. I think it's gorgeous. Should not be touched.
And it won't be. While logging still exists on the northern two-thirds of the Charlottes, providing valuable jobs, it is not allowed here. After a couple of tumultuous centuries, the land and the creatures of Guayhanas National Park Reserve are once again at peace.
The big tree to me is a symbol. It's a symbol that we haven't wrecked everything yet. This is a sign that we know where to stop. You enter the park boundary and you see how relatively untouched this part of British Columbia is, and I'm just grateful that it's there.